Welcome back to News Talk. ESPN 980 host Andy Poland joins us now as we turn to the sports page. Welcome back. Happy Friday. Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
A lot going on, and we want to begin by sort of celebrating and talking about the fact that, as expected, Bryce Harper of the Washington Nationals was the runaway choice for National League MVP. What a season. A disappointing season for the team and for all of us who bought into that incredibly high expectation that so many in baseball had for the Nationals in 2015. So big disappointment there. But to see Bryce Harper, who was a standout from the moment he set foot on the field, really take his game to the next level and become MVP at this young age, extraordinary.
Oh, he had an unbelievable season. I mean, it's historic. It's one of the all-time great seasons with some of the most incredible names who ever played baseball. And the amazing thing is he just turned 23 years old. He's been on our radar for 7 years. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated at 16. And the only other athlete that I know that got that kind of hype is LeBron James. And LeBron James obviously has lived up to that hype. Until this year, Harper really hadn't, even though he'd been very, very good for somebody so young, coming up to the major leagues as a teenager at 19 and performing as well as he had. But this year, he took it to the level that met the incredible expectation that he had at 16. And he had 124 walks, which tells you a lot about what went wrong this season. He didn't have anybody behind him who could really protect him, so he was walked all the time. He still hit 42 home runs. He still hit 330 and was the unanimous choice for the MVP on a team that didn't make the playoffs. So that ought to tell you right there how great it was.
I suspect it was listening to your station on the way to work this morning that I heard someone make a comparison to Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
Because it's the numbers, it's the production, combined with the youth that makes him not the run-of-the-mill hot young prospect, but really something special.
In fact, I have those numbers you're talking about here, and I brought them with me, even highlighted. No player in history has produced 42 home runs and 124 walks in a season as young as Harper since Babe Ruth did it with 54 homers and 150 walks at the age of 25 in 1920.
How cool is that?
1920.
When you say Babe Ruth, you know, it's mythic.
Yeah, and here are the other numbers just about his season. According to Baseball Reference, the hitters most similar to Harper through age 22: Frank Robinson, Tony Conigliaro, Mickey Mantle, Miguel Cabrera, Mike Trout, Hank Aaron, Ken Griffey Jr., Orlando Cepeda, Andrew Jones, and Cesar Cedeno. I mean, there's Hall of Famers right in there. Now, it's a long haul from now until the Hall of Fame, but certainly he's off to a Hall of Fame start to his career.
We've played this expectation game, and it was such a bust this year. As we start to think about 2016, what are the odds that he'll have that he won't be sort of the standout player and he won't be as subject to being pitched around as he was this past year?
A lot of depends on the health of the lineup. You know, Ryan Zimmerman missed a whole bunch of games. They had a lot of guys who were out big chunks of the year. And the thing about Harper, you know, going into this season, he'd had those kind of things as well. And he managed to play in 153 games this year. He only missed 9. He missed big parts of other seasons. So if he can maintain his health, and if knock for Micah, you know, the other players can do that, they can have that season. The problem they've got is two teams that faced off in the playoffs have probably surpassed them in terms of building championship teams, the Mets and the Cubs. So those teams who were not on their radar going into the season are now teams that they're going to have to leap over if they want to have the kind of year they hope to have.
And there's always been this sort of lingering concern in the background that Bryce Harper may not be the long-term piece of this franchise that I know all fans here hope he will be. I mean, that's
Tom Boswell.
I hate to even talk about this.
Well, but it's reality, and what you have now is 3 years guaranteed. He's here for 3 more years. After that, very much up in the air. Tom Boswell on the Post wrote a very good column this morning comparing Harper to Alexander Ovechkin. Now, Ovechkin makes $9.5 million a year. He signed a $13 million contract, which still has this year and 4 years left on it. Harper could get $40 million a year. He could sign something like a $400 million contract. And who's the team that would have the money to do that? The New York Yankees. What's his father's favorite team? The New York Yankees. Number 34 in his uniform, you put 3 and 4 together, you get number 7, you get Mickey Mantle, who, even though he never saw him play, he's too young to have seen him, he's heard about him. And I think in his mind, he's the next Mickey Mantle.
Well, He can be Mickey Mantle. I just hope he stays.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great
in red and off gray.
But it all comes down to what makes sense dollars and cents wise.
Let's talk football for a moment. Washington comes off a big win, a surprisingly, I think, lopsided win. You can discount it for it being the Saints, for it being the Saints outdoors on turf as opposed to in a dome where they flourish, et cetera, et cetera. But there was a lot to like in the performance last week. They play Carolina, which does sort of harken back to the New England game when there were no expectations and where the performance was disappointing for home fans. Is there any way to know what we'll see on the field come Sunday?
This is an odd circumstance for this game. Yes, the Redskins are 4-5, and yes, it seems ridiculous to talk playoffs at 4-5. But the way the schedule sets up, if they lose this game, they're still okay because the next two games are at home against the Giants and the Cowboys, two teams in their division that they have to beat. They're fortunate this year, and the division's terrible. I mean, the best team is the Giants. They're a half game ahead of the Redskins. So everything is in front of them. And even if they lose this game to drop to 4-6, playoffs are still a very real possibility going into Thanksgiving. I mean, it really is strange that way. Can they beat Carolina? Carolina has beaten only one team with a winning record. That's the Green Bay Packers. If the Redskins play as well as they did against New England without dropping 7 passes, they might have a chance. Carolina's a much better defensive team than the Saints. I mean, the Saints is a little bit of fool's gold there because their defense is horrible, and they fired their defensive coordinator, Rob Ryan, after the game. So you got to take what happened last week with a grain of salt. But I think they have a realistic chance to go in and beat Carolina.
And although all teams have injuries, and Washington has certainly had its share, they're getting some of the pieces back. That if they can, once back, stay back, might power something of a run here, even if, as you say, they can't pull it off against.
The secondary's been all beat up, and they've got certain guys that are coming back. D'Angelo Hall has been back. Chris Culliver's back. In fact, they played D'Angelo Hall at safety, his natural position is corner, so they've really even got a little bit of luxury back there. The defensive line has been somewhat disappointing. They have not stopped the run all year. And Carolina can run the football, including the quarterback, who's like 6'5" and 260. So they got their work cut out for them. But again, if they lose this game, they're still in a pretty good spot in terms of making the playoffs.
We have a couple minutes left. Let's talk about what happened 30 years ago this week. Many of the people that you and I work with don't recall or didn't see Joe Theismann play during the course of his career. They know him as a YouTube clip. But for many of us, Joe Theismann's prowess, his prominence, what he delivered, what he meant to this team and to this town, it was one of the most heartbreaking moments of the modern era to see him. When I say see, I mean sadly, I mean to see him break his leg on Monday Night Football, and we're going to show the video one time.
Oh, great!
And this
right around lunchtime. This is good.
This is the only time we'll show this. Avert your eyes if you're so inclined. Your thoughts on Joe T. on having it all come to an end 30 years ago?
Well, I mean, this is probably, if not the most famous injury in the history of the NFL, one of. And this was a Monday Night Football game, so it was the only game on. And Monday Night Football was a bigger deal then because we didn't have people had cable TV, but not to the extent that they have it now. And there was new technology for ABC, and so the initial shot of that, you didn't see what we just saw. And they went to commercial break, and they went to the truck, and the director said, this is what we got. I think we're going to show it, but warn people. And was Frank Gifford, O.J. Simpson, and Joe Namath doing the game. That was the crew then. And Gifford very cautiously said, avert your eyes if you're screaming and all that. And so we saw the new reverse camera angle that ABC had just had, and that's what everybody got to see. And it's been 30 years, and yeah, I mean, it's one of those moments, if you're a Redskin fan, you knew where you were when that happened.
Andy Powen, the great host of ESPN 980. Always great having you here. Thanks very much for stopping by. We appreciate your time. We're back with the program note after this.